Lindsay's kind of like a little bit of a rising rock star in the Microsoft world. She's really been doing great at getting out there and building community, and just has kind of taught herself a ton of stuff, and doing really, really well. So one of the recent things she's done is really work with the Power Platform Center of Excellence, and she put a lot of hard work into it. And a lot of people have been asking about it. And I was like, please, 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 please come talk to the user group about this. And she's like, sure. So I'm really excited to have her. And I think you guys are all going to get a lot out of this. So I'm going to let you take it and pop off camera, but have a great time.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sharon and everyone. I actually started out in the industry helping with this user group and helping set up these meetings and everything back in 2019, 2020. So it's kind of weird for me to be here speaking now, but I'm into it. I'm all for it. So I'm here to talk to you about the Power Platform Center of Excellence, and a little bit kind of the underlying story here being my organization's governance journey and what we kind of went through. But first, I'll just introduce myself a little bit more. So I am, as Sharon said, Lindsay Shelton. I am an application programmer with the Stowers Institute for Medical Research, located here in Kansas City. And I'm Kansas City born and raised. For those of you who know that there are two Kansas Cities, I am very authentically Kansas City because was born in the Kansas version of Kansas City, and I moved last summer into a house in the Missouri version of Kansas City. So I'm about as Kansas City as you can be. I've got my Arrowhead earrings here. Go Chiefs! And yeah, I don't see myself moving anytime soon. And in case you missed it, if there's anything weird going on in my background, I do have two cats under the age of one in this house right now because I just wanted to make things interesting and really relate things back to my background. Uh, I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, which makes sense because I was a teacher for 10 years of middle school. I started with middle school English and then moved into middle school technology, intro to engineering. So if you start heckling me or saying mean things, like I'll be prepared. That'll be okay. I prefer you not, but I can handle it. It's fine. I've dealt with worse. So my job is really cool. I get to do a really wide variety of things. So I'm not just Power Platform in my role. That's really kind of something I carved out for myself for a few months. And then my boss said, "Hey, you have other things to do." And I said, "Okay, great. I'll do those things too." But yeah, Power Platform and adoption and governance is something that I've been working a lot with. But I also do SharePoint framework development. Azure APIM is something I've been told now I need to get back into. Really just a wide variety of things. So if any of that is interesting to you or relevant to you, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Lindsay T. Shelton on LinkedIn. My blog is lindsaytshelton.com. I've been working to update that actually more regularly. Haven't done anything in March yet, so I need to have some sort of brainstorm. And then the place I'm most active, L Shelton Tech, L Shelton _tech on Twitter. So feel free to reach out to me there. So first, let's make sure we're all on an even platform, pun intended, because I did have someone ask me about this. This is not overall a governance session. This is not governance of AWS or things like that. This is governance of specifically Power Platform tools. And so if you weren't aware, that's the umbrella term for a group of low code, no code, I know popular terms, tools in the Microsoft ecosystem. Things most popularly are Power Apps, Power Automate, a workflow tool, and then there's Power Pages, Power Virtual Agents, and Power BI. That this is a set of tools actually that are built within the Power Platform ecosystem for monitoring the Power Platform ecosystem. So anyway, if anyone in your organization is doing anything with one of these logos, if one of these tools, then this session is for you. And you'll find out within a few slides why that is. So flashback. In 2022, I was getting more and more excited about Power Platform. I was developing a lot of different flows, Power Automate workflows for my organization. And I got the opportunity to go to the inaugural Microsoft Power Platform conference down in Orlando. And so I was really excited. And I go down there and I came back really, really energized. And I thought, oh man, we're going to get everyone in Stowers using all of these Power Platform flows and Power Apps, and we're just going to be the most Power Platform organization ever. And I was so excited. This is obviously a picture of me coming back from the conference. That's what my hair looks like after about 4 months of not dyeing the gray. This is about 2.5 months right now. So that's me heading into work after the Power Platform conference. So I head into work, and then this is me when I headed into work. And then I did a little research and I realized something that was kind of horrifying to me, which is out of the box, there's not any Power Platform governance in place. Anyone, and you might be realizing you might have the sinking feelings right now, because if no one in your organization has touched this, anyone can make an environment. Anyone can make any kind of flow or app that they want using premium connectors and sending out any kind of sensitive business data that they want. And you would have no idea what they're doing. And this is not an indictment by any means on my organization, because this is the case for so many organizations, because like I said, it's not out of the box. By default, this is the behavior that Microsoft allows. And so this was obviously me filled with ennui and suffering upon realizing that before adoption, I was going to have to get into governance, something that was very scary to me. And so I started doing some digging and, governance. What is governance? And I'm sorry, I'm a child of the 90s. There's going to be at least one other 90s reference in here. So if you weren't looking for a Dr. Evil impression in your day, you've gotten it now. This is not a session all about Power Platform governance. If you want to see that session, come to the second annual Power Platform conference down in Vegas this October, where Michael Roth and I will be giving a session all about that. But I do have some resources that I want to give you that are about Power Platform governance. Microsoft has some really great resources, and I just threw them in chat. That's what I had Notepad open for. And I realized in going through my bookmarks, most of my bookmarks were Microsoft links. And so they do, you got to do a lot of reading, but they do have lots of really great resources for governance. And then I'm not just saying this because he's here. I'm saying this because I already was going to say this, but Michael Roth was a really, really, really wonderful resource for not only his blog posts about governance, but also because he was someone I could reach out to on Twitter, and who was willing to chat with me and go back and forth with my questions and help me get to the bottom of things that I wasn't understanding about the Center of Excellence and things. So Michael Roth is someone, if he wants to throw his Twitter handle in chat, he can do that. His blog is a really amazing help. He's got a great series of blog posts about my Power Platform governance. And then Matthew Devaney has been posting some good posts recently. He had one specifically about, there you go, he put his handle in chat. Matt Devaney had a really great post about environment strategies and DLP tips. So those are the two things that I would tell you to look for, because it is an overwhelming topic. Look for environment strategies and DLP policy information and strategies are the two things I would suggest you look for. And I'm going to actually back out of here for a second, because I did save a few changes that are not showing up in Power Platform Live. So I'm going to stop sharing and then share again. Hold, please. Man, who would have thought the first interruption wouldn't be from cats? Okay, just let me do I have? Yes, I have my slide I wanted now. So when I say environments, I did just want to point this out because I'm thinking of the things that confused me when people kept saying them over and over again 6 months ago. If you go into make.power or automate.com, for example, and you look in the top right corner, if you've not touched environments at all, it will say something like, I think ours said Stowers Institute default uh, in the top right corner. And so uh, that's if you've not touched environments, and that's fine for a basic. The idea is you get to a point where you can cultivate some specific environments. So like in ours, we have a test, a developer, a production environment for your business critical applications. We have a COE environment. We have a makerspace environment. And you'll notice we no longer have that default environment. It's the basic recommendation to change that default environment to say personal productivity instead, to kind of hint to people that this should just be for apps that are for individuals to use, because it's can't be backed up properly. But I'm not going to, like I said, we're not going to go into that. We're focused on the center of excellence. And this was another thing that really drove me nuts when I was researching this. I kept seeing COE mentioned, COE starter kit, center of excellence. And I was like, what is it? And I couldn't really find a good short description. So what is it? It's a set of tools that are actually Power Platform tools that you can install in the Power Platform to effectively do a lot of things or a few things really effectively, depending on what you want to install, how deep you want to go with it, what licenses you have, etc. Do not attack me and bite me right now. You can do things like at the most basic level, set up DLP permissions more easily. You can set app and flow permissions on every app and flow in your tenant. So think about if you've got someone who's gone out of town and they've got a flow that 20 other people use that they need access to, or orphaned apps and flows in your organization. And the most important thing for my organization, extended monitoring and visibility of what your makers are doing in your tenant and who they are. Because that was a big one for me. I wanted to know who were my makers so that I could reach out to them and for adoption purposes, then see, would they help me promote, Power Apps within my organization and share their use cases. Plus, you can extend the COE even further. Think about if you just get a TV and you set up Netflix, and that's all you have on the TV. Well, you can do that, and the TV is great, but you can also get other streamers like Hulu. Well, that's your governance components. So you could require the makers to justify using a premium connector or sharing their app with a certain number of people with a business use case. You can put an app in quarantine until certain things are done, that you've required. You can send yourself an inactivity notification based on an app. You can add HBO Max, which are your nurture components. So you can send out surveys to your makers. There are training in a day templates if that's and that's something Microsoft has more information about. There are newsletter capabilities for sending out things to your makers. Maybe you want to add Peacock. Those are your theming components. So as you can tell, my organization clearly has a brand color scheme that they have. So if we had a bunch of people making apps in my organization, it would make sense to install the theming components, because you could have a custom theme in the apps that, I could put all the color hex codes and things that my organization uses that people could pull up right in their app and use really easily without having to look them up. And then I could throw in Paramount Plus for application lifecycle management for DevOps purposes. And there's even more things coming. The COE gets updated every few months at least. And so this is not, there's not a limit really to the COE right now. So if you like governance, you can put some governance in your governance, and you can governance while you governance. This makes sense. If you ever saw Pimp My Ride with Exhibit, this makes no sense to you if you did not see that show, but it made me laugh. So there we go. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, or your admins may be asking you when you say, hey, I want to install the Center of Excellence, why not just use the Power Platform Admin Center? Well, the Power Platform Admin Center is like a baby, which is great. Babies are great. You know, no one doesn't like babies, but babies can't really walk or talk, which are things that are nice. We like when people can walk and talk. And so that's what the COE starter kit gives us. And so just for an example, I tried to go into the Power Platform Admin Center and pull up some of the analytics just to compare for you. And I got report couldn't be loaded today. So I couldn't even show you the few analytics that it gives you to compare it to the COE's huge toolkit of analytics that are available. So this baby was apparently taking a nap. And yeah, but you look here, you can, at the screenshot, you can only see 6 sections. And if you change to tenant level analytics, I think it's 3 sections, and that's all you get. And it has kind of like, you can't go click on stuff and drill into the things and get more information. And it's frustrating. Now, there's lots of stuff that the Power Platform Admin Center is good for. It's just not really good for analytics, which is really what I wanted. So my focus is going to be on the core components of the COE. So I wanted to show you a few of the things, and I'm showing you in screenshots and not live just because I'm trying to avoid showing you all of our users' screen names and names. Since this is being recorded. So you get your admin command center. I just went into a weird accent there. And this just gives you links to a bunch of the other different apps, which, you know, you could get to a different ways, but then it's also got useful things on the left here, like your sync flow errors. If you need to investigate any of those, you can go look at all of the different Center of Excellence flows that are going on. You can go in and customize different emails that the COE can send out, or go just customize your environment variables. That's not the most exciting part. This is one of my favorite parts, the Power Platform admin view, not to be confused with the admin center. And you can just already see on the left here how many more different options there are here compared to, compared to the admin center. So just on this main dashboard here, and I covered up some names with the green block, I can see all of my app makers ranked in order of how many apps they've made. And I can see their actual name, not just their email address or some GUID. I can see all of my environments and how many flows and apps are being made in each environment, plus a lot more if I scroll down. And one of the other things that I was reminded of just today that's really nice is it puts things in place. Even if your environment, even if your organization is only really using Power Apps and Power Automate, which is what my organization's really using, you never know when the need is going to suddenly present itself for something else. I had someone message me just this morning as I was getting ready for this saying, hey, do you know anything about Power Virtual Agents? And I was able to say, well, I know we have analytics about them and we have monitoring in place already right now for them, because I can see right, here on the side, I've got bots. So they could spin them up right now and I would be ready with my governance in place because of the COE being there. So same would go for Power Pages, for example. I can go into any different flow or app and, like we said, set those permissions. So I could go into the flow settings. I could go in and email all of the users of that flow. I can add new users, which is really useful on this orphaned flow view, that I can go in and launch that flow and just get a look at it. Or I can, see how many people are using it now. I can go in and look at the actual flow runs, and I can then delete the flow from there if I conclude, well, really it was just that one person using it and they're gone, so there's not really a need for it, so I can clean it up. And then there's this really beautiful Power BI dashboard. This is definitely my favorite part. It's got all of these different pages sorted by the components. So it's got the monitor section, the governance section, and the nurture section. And so just 2 of the screens from the, probably hundreds of screens that are in here, I can see by connector how many different how the connectors are being used, or how many connectors are being used and what numbers. So I can see SharePoint is obviously the most popular connector, Office 365 Outlook. One thing that I would maybe want to investigate is I can see how often the HTTP connector has been used. So I would want to see, okay, are there regular users using this? Is this just my cases of using this, since that's one you have to be a little more careful with. And then this one, the one on the right, I find really useful for adoption purposes, because I can see by department how many flows are being made. So obviously information technology is the one using it the most because of our service account and my account, but I can see cellular tissue and molecular biology, cytometry are big adopters. And so that tells me, okay, these are the departments that I might want to go to when I'm trying to help proliferate this maybe into the department more. So I've just gotten into a lot. Are there any questions so far that I can answer? Also, give me a water break. All right, well, as you think of them, feel free to pop them in chat as well. And if I don't answer them as I go, I will answer them at the end. So I know it sounds really good. What's the catch? There's a little catch. And the catch for me is licensing. And isn't that always the catch with Microsoft? And we're a nonprofit, so it's going to be more of a catch for us than it might be for other organizations. So here's the part of the session where I'm going to attempt to explain licensing. So here we go. Each account that works with a COE app needs to either have a Power Apps or Power Automate per user license, or each separate COE app needs a Power Apps per app license. I'm going to have another screen to break that down because that's confusing. I will say the documentation says you need both Automate and apps, but you're fine with just one. Save you some money there. So what that means is, for my organization, there's some apps that we do not use. If I wanted the users to use the app catalog, for example, which is a great place for me, one of the apps that I've developed is the name pronunciation recorder. So if I wanted to put that in the app catalog for other people to go in and be able to use, then that would be a great place to display it. But I would either need a Power Apps per app license for that one app and for every other app that I wanted to have people interact with, or each user would need a Power Apps per user license or a Power Automate per user license. But then that user can use all of these premium COE apps that are on the page, like the Maker Command Center, the Maker Environment Request, and all these other ones that the governance the governance components and all of that comes with. So that is a restriction. And so for us, that restricts us from, we didn't get the go ahead to add that extra licensing at this point. So I still get all of the great analytics and everything, but it is a restriction. So I did want to make sure that was really clear from the get-go. It does require extra licensing. I would say probably the cheapest way to do it is, though, license each one of those apps that you want people to use, and then, unless you've got a pretty small organization. All right. So your minimum requirements. The way we did it is we set up a COE admin like service account. So whatever account that sets up your COE needs to, like I said, have a Power Apps or Power Automate per user license. It cannot be a trial. It will not work. It will yell at you, and it will know you're trying to trick it. It won't know you're trying to trick it if you just have one of those two licenses, but it will know if it's a trial. You do need to have an M365 license. It does not, Microsoft does not specify you need to have an E3, an E5, whatever. It just you need to have some level of an M365 license. You do need to have a special admin permissions. You need to have either Microsoft Power Platform Service Admin Global Tenant Admin, or Dynamics 365 Service Admin. You can have any one of the three, it does not matter, but it cannot be hidden behind PIM, Privileged Identity Management. We have that in my organization. It's where you go in, you say, I want to be a Power Platform admin for the next 8 hours, and you kind of check out basically your admin role. It cannot be hidden behind there. You've got to have permanent admin access because there's flows running 24 hours. And then the account that you use also has to be mailbox enabled. And I will post, like I said, this is being recorded, and I can also post these slides in chat. So I don't expect you, I'm probably going too fast to jot all these down. But all of this comes from the Microsoft documentation as well. So there you go. It is recommended that you give the COE its own environment. I will say I recently learned it's also recommended you have a test COE environment, because if you think about it, the COE is technically production and you shouldn't test in production, Twitter. And so like when the COE, then upgrade came out for the COE in February. And so the idea is, okay, if I'm going to do an upgrade, then I should do it in my test COE first and then make sure everything's working okay. And then I do it in my actual COE. So you can decide when you're ready for that level of maturity. I just added my dev COE for this session. When you're setting up your environment, it should be a production environment that does have a database. Don't need to have the sample apps and data, and you should not restrict it with a security group. You can have a DLP policy on your COE environment, but you do need to have the following connectors allowed, and these are all going to be on the next screen as well. That's because these are the connectors the COE uses, so you need to allow them. Now, in prepping for the actual setup, this is going to save you a bunch of time, even though it takes a little bit of time. You'll want to go to make.powerautomate.com and make sure you select your COE environment. You switch into that environment. And then on the left-hand side, you will go to data and connections. And then you will select a new connection, and you will do that about 14 times. It's tedious, but it will save you time. You will want to add all of the connectors on this list, but it is pretty easy. It's just click, 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 except for the HTTP with Azure AD one. The only special thing you will want to do for that one is you will want to, for where it says the base resource URL, and the next one, sorry, on PowerPoint Live, I can't see it very well, so that's why I'm zooming myself in. Basically, for the two lines of the two places where you can put in a URL, you will want to put in https://graph.microsoft.com and make sure you're connected to cloud, not on-prem, and then you press connect or create, and then that's all you have to do. So not too busy, not too difficult at that point. One more step, you go to the Power Platform Admin Center with your service account or whatever account you're setting up the COE with. You go click on environments and your COE environment, and you go to settings and expand that. Go to features, scroll, scroll, scroll. You look for this right here, Power App Component Framework for Canvas apps. It's on the right side. Make sure to turn it on, and then make sure to scroll, scroll, scroll. Press save at the bottom of the page. And then you are ready to install the COE. Woo! I had to break out all the animations. Now, there are two ways to do this. You can do it the easy way, or you can do it the hard way. Now, you may ask yourself, why would anyone do it the hard way? I've done it the hard way. I don't recommend it. The hard way is just doing it manually. The reason I've done it the hard way is not for fun. It's because the PowerCat team and Manuela Pitcher and all of them did not come out with the setup wizard until recently. And the setup wizard is amazing. The setup wizard will change your life. The world was a better place the day the setup wizard was implemented. I promise you, you do not want to do this the hard way. You might think, well, I want more control over my implementation and I want to see exactly what's going on. When you do it the hard way, what it really is you reference a list of flows, and then you go click on the flow and you click on, and then you go back and you reference that list, and then you click on a flow and you click on and you go back. And you do that about 100 times, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. It's very tedious. I do not recommend it. Use the setup wizard. That's a great point, Michael. They don't have to know that you have a setup wizard is the great tip for consultants. Just don't tell them. So the basic next few steps do involve downloading and importing solutions. So the way you do that is go to make.powerapps.com. On the left side, you have solutions as an option. Select that. And then on the top bar, you will have import solution. Click that. And then you will select a file. You'll select 2 different files. And then you will follow the prompts on the right window pane that pop up. So your initial install steps, and I will pop these links in the chat as well, just because they are important links, is so you'll import the creator kit. That's how part of what helps make the setup wizard and such possible. And all you have to do is download that file, you leave it zipped, and then you import it and as a solution. And then you click, 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 and follow whatever prompts are on the right window. And then that's imported and that's in your environment. Make sure you are in your COE environment before you start doing this, because I have made that mistake before. I mean, I've never made mistakes in my life. Yeah. Then you download the COE starter kit file. Now this one you do want to unzip, and there are a bunch of other zipped files in there. That's because they give you the governance components, the nurture components. All you want to import at this time is the Center of Excellence core components, managed.zip. You'll have all those other ones for if you want to get ambitious and start installing those. This session's just about the core components. And then once you have installed that, you're clicking through, but then you will pause at the environment variables step. And you will want to read through each environment variable, because some of them will say required and some of them will say leave empty on import. Leave those empty. Yep, they make it very tricky for you. The ones that are required, they might seem confusing at first, but if you actually go through and read what they say on most of them, like for example, again, I'm having to get close to read what my own screenshot says. I can't read that. But like it gives you a URL and it says required, and it says, so for example, the URL might be this. If you're in the US, at least in Kansas City, that is the URL that you need. So I've got here the required ones and the URL that I put in, but I literally got that URL from the instructions, from them saying, here's a suggested URL, make.powerapps.com. So great, I copied that URL and I pasted it right in that row of text. The only ones that I didn't do that with, that you can't do that with, are your individual admin account. So you'll just need an individual admin's email. Could be a service account. Just you will decide amongst yourselves who that will be and put in that email address. And then the only other thing is your tenant ID. To get that, you might need an admin's help, but you'll go to portal.azure.com to access that, and then go to Azure Active Directory. And that should just be, I think it says like your organizational ID there, but that is your tenant ID. And then it's time to wait 15 minutes, because that's about how long it takes to import the solution. But we're through the magic of television, we're ready to keep going. So you click Center of Excellence, Core Components Solution, and then you have a really long list of all of the flows and environment variables and apps and things that belong to that solution. And you scroll down until you see COE Setup Wizard Preview. There's 2 of them. You want the one that's a model-driven app. And then you have this beautiful thing. Like I said, life became better the day this arrived. It starts with just asking, hey, confirm your prerequisites, and it even checks some of them for you. So, like for me, it checked. It said, hey, you don't have a Power Apps and a Power Automate per user license. And I said, okay. And then I kept going because it's not actually required. And it was able to check, is email enabled? Do you have your Microsoft 365 license? And do you have the proper admin role, which it couldn't verify. I just had to verify that manually. So I said, yes, I've got all those, and kept going. Then, and I'm just going to go through what the setup wizard tells you, so there's no mystery. So you don't have to be worried about it. Then it wants you to configure your communication methods. So there's 3 personas. There's the admin group. So what we just did was we created PP admins, I think, and we just put 3 of us in the group, and that was our admin persona. So I just put that email in there. A maker group for the second persona. So again, we just created a group for our makers, Power Platform makers, something like that. And we put that email address in there. And then an all company group for sharing apps out with all of your users, which for my case, the licensing is not in the place to do so. So I filled it in, but we're not, I'm not really going to use it. Then it's time to configure your mandatory settings, which those were all already filled in for me. My tenant ID was already there, which I beautifully scribbled out because I can't find my stylus. And the other stuff, individual admin and your Power Platform region were in there. So I just left that alone. See, this is already so much easier than going and referencing a bunch of lists and clicking a bunch of flows. Now, this step was probably the easiest step because it wants you to configure your inventory data source, but then it says you only have one option right now. So I just picked the one option that I have right now and didn't worry about it. But it does let you know that there's another option coming, which is kind of cool that I think I talked with Michael about this like months ago, that the data lake could be your data source, which is useful because we use Snowflake, but that goes into the weeds and we're not going to get into the weeds right now. Then this is kind of boring. It's time to run setup flows, but it's boring, not tedious, because you just have to click refresh and you can see there's these 3 flows. They're taking some time to run. They're going to take about 15 minutes. Mine took a little longer than 15 minutes, but that's just time to go pet your kittens or whatever it is that you do. Step away, charge some extra money if you're a consultant, whatever makes you happy. And yep, thank you for the kitten, Jeff. I appreciate that. And then you come back and you press refresh and you just make sure that those 3 setup flows have run properly. And once they did, you're ready for the next step, which is the inventory flows. This, I don't know why we have to do this step manually, but it is kind of fun. You just click on like 8 times, and then they disappear once they've been turned on, and then I just moved on to the next step. Then it gives you options to go in and share apps. I didn't choose to share the apps at this time, but you do have the option to go in and share these apps at the time. So, and a lot of these things you can go back and do at any point too. And then this part, you definitely want to click learn more and follow these instructions to publish the Power BI dashboard, because that is very useful. Tons and tons of really cool data there for you. You just have to follow the instructions, but it explains it all pretty clearly and gets it published in a way that I just have it open in the web version now, and I'm able to access it without keeping a file open on my computer in Power BI desktop and all of that. So I'm not going to go into those details, but the setup wizard gives you links on how to publish the Power BI dashboard. And then you're done. It shows you, okay, well, you've done the initial setup. Here's more features. So you would come here if you wanted to configure the some of the other things. Again, I can't read this through the PowerPoint live. It makes the screen too small. But like if I was installing the governance components or the nurture components, you would go back here and you could then go in and configure additional things. If you've gotten this far, you've installed the COE. Woo! I had a really great time just going through Microsoft's clip art and stock images library on this slideshow, if you couldn't tell. Now, I just wanted to share some things that biggest takeaways. I installed the COE. Well, actually, it was very dramatic. I was trying to install the COE December 22nd, right before my whole organization went on winter break. And I was ready to go. I sat down and I was tweeting about it. I'm like, today's COE install day. Woohoo! And then I sat down and I realized I didn't have the right licensing. And our admin who had helped me with that was on vacation a day early. So I had to wait until winter break. I had to go the whole winter break. It was so awful. No, it was fine. I still enjoyed my winter break, but then yeah, I had to wait until the new year and finally got to install it when all the admins came back from break. And so it's been about 3 months that we've had it. So here are some of my biggest takeaways as the person, who's been pushing this along. Once the governance is set up right, there's really not that much else you need to do other than, go review your dashboards, go check out your analytics and see what's going on. One of my favorite things, I need to find the link for this and put this in chat, but it's a flow that Microsoft had a tutorial on how to set up. It's just tells me about new flows in the tenant, and it's a daily email, and I'm able to get these emails, and it's not even technically COE related. It's just a governance sort of thing. And so I'm able to daily see, oh my gosh, this person made a flow. Oh, that's so exciting. And it's the most exciting when it's someone that I've met with and they're making additional flows. So, I've helped them and I've helped them build one flow. Now they're building 3, 4, 5 flows based on that knowledge that I helped them unlock. That being said, adoption can be a slow but rewarding process. I would say probably once a week, I have someone reach out to me. We did a Power Automate All Institute kind of option training, meaning not everyone was required to come and attend, but it was offered in January. And so ever since then, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, I have someone reach out and say, hey, I have an idea for a flow, but I'm not really sure how to get started on it. Can you help me? And so I'll set up 30 minutes with them and I make them make the flow. But I walk them through, okay, click this to do this and, make it a teachable moment. And, from there, they're generally very excited and um they're like, oh, this is so cool. Oh, that was really easy. That wasn't hard at all. And like I said, they're off making other flows and hopefully sharing that with other people. So it is slow going, at least for me. But make sure you have an open point person. I've been that open point person, but being open to people. Like I said, I have a meeting at 1:30 with someone to help them with a flow that's going to actually be have branching in it and going to have variables in it. And just because he said, I'm ready for some branching and variables because I need a flow that will only send reminder emails if the approval hasn't been completed. I said, okay, let's go, let's do it. So that's how it's been going for me, and I'm happy to keep updating on Twitter and things with how it's been going. So that's what I've got. Any questions, any comments? Yes, the update was actually pretty easy, Peter. I've done one update so far in February, and it really was just importing another solution, and it was just kind of click, follow this, click. I don't remember it being very stressful at all. And then it's been working just fine. So yeah, the update was pretty easy. It sounds like for April, I think they have a bigger update coming. So I guess we'll see how easy it is in April. And I guess I'll be glad that I've set up a dev COE now to see how much harder it gets. But yeah, they did done a really good job at making it a lot more user friendly, I feel like, than it probably used to be when I was first playing with it in my dev tenant, a couple months ago. Um, yeah, emailing welcome emails and things like that. I haven't heard that it's been emailing people welcome emails or deleting inactive stuff. But I I guess it's possible that it's been happening. I haven't been monitoring it too carefully, but I haven't been letting people know. How do you manage moving a flow or an app from dev to prod? That, yeah, that's kind of a separate beast. Lisa, a lot of it involves using solutions and then environment variables and connection references. So, and let me see if I can find really quick a good um, solutions, environment variables. Because the idea is that you bundle up the app and the flows. So for me, it was like a group of flows that I would put into a solution, and it's just one solution. So this would be like the featured news solution, and it's every flow that goes together. And then you have to go through your flow, and every reference to a SharePoint list you replace with an environment variable that you build within the solution. And I know it's not super clear to just hear someone talk about it without actually seeing it. Um, but if you replace the SharePoint references with environment variables, because then those will stay static, as opposed to when I'm switching from environment to environment, the SharePoint references will tend to get messed up. And then you also have to replace your connectors with or your connections with connection references, which it makes pretty easy for you. Once you move something into a solution, Power Automate will just say to you, hey, you need to use connection references. Do you want to do this? And you just click OK. And then you go through for everything that has a connection, change it to a connection reference. And then you bundle it up. And then lots of testing I had to do to make sure I was doing that correct. And then moved that into, I think we moved it into dev just because I haven't we weren't properly following that flow. So I moved things into dev first, and then we moved it into test, and we moved it into prod and testing each step of the way. So it was definitely a process. I will try to, I'm looking for a link for you that helps explain what it is I'm talking about here. Um, can one use automated testing with flows? Um, I believe if you're getting into the DevOps and things like that, I believe you can use automated testing. I have not gotten into that specifically, Matthew, so I can't speak to that specifically. Solutions. Here's what I want. So this will help get you started, Lisa. So the kind of the idea is the solutions that you're moving into test into prod are your business critical ones that generally IT is developing. The ones that my makers are building are generally not considered business critical because it's just one person using it or a very small group of people using it. If my makers get to the point of maturity that they've developed a solution that is business critical, then we would have to work with them to I would probably just pair with them to create the solution and get everything hooked up correctly, and then migrate it into test and test it out into prod. But again, we're not doing it technically properly because they've built it in personal productivity more than likely instead of in a dev environment. So we're all doing the best we can at the end of the day. We're trying to do the right thing. Yeah, great questions. And I don't necessarily have all the answers. Michael's a great resource for lots of COE stuff and things like that. And then Twitter itself is just a great resource. Hashtag sharing is caring. If you throw your questions out there, a lot of times if Michael or I or Sharon don't have your answers, someone on Twitter will.
Yeah, I think Matt mentioned in chat, do they have automated testing? And I'm also interested in that because we're developing a lot of power power apps and power flows in my application, and we really need ways to automated regression test. Right now we've got a business user and me doing a final round of testing, and we always end up missing something. And in regression testing, it seems fine, and then we get our new push into production and something breaks. So
Sure.
we're really looking for automated testing solutions.
I know it just gets a little more pro codey devy, but I know there are like automated lifecycle management options within Power Platform, and I've seen things about it. I just haven't quite read it
Okay.
because I knew we didn't have. I knew that wasn't the solution for ours, but that's some of the things that I would start. Oh well, I just found a link right here. Hold on. Um,
So I just popped a link for the new test studio.
Okay. I'll take a look at. I did see a test studio, and I need to check with my devs to see how far they've gone down that path. But it feels like playing whack-a-mole. Every time we push something into production, something breaks that never broke before. And it's like, why?
I
I
feel
don't
you, Tamara.
understand.
I feel you. I was literally on a call for like 2 hours before this call trying to work out that exact, like we have an app that works perfectly fine, and now with certain users it's not. So I get it.
Yep.
and Tamara, I just put in chat ALM basics, application life cycle management basics. I don't know if
Okay.
that's exactly what you need, but I would at least start there and take a look there and see if that's because that's what I'm tiptoeing around when I have test dev production environments, but I'm not automating any of it, which is what you're looking to do. So
Yeah. Yeah, we have all the lower environments and migrate them up as things work, and do
mhm.
the unit testing and all of that, but just we send it into production, it's like, wait, this wasn't broke before. Why is it broke now? We didn't even touch it. So, yeah.
That's annoying. Just because Microsoft.
Because Microsoft, that's 100% it. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and experience with all of us. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to pop them in chat. Lindsay, did you put you might grab your connection info and stick it in chat one more time if anybody wants to connect with Lindsay, whatever you want to put on there for people to be able to find you, follow you, connect with you. If anybody needs anything, feel free to pop it in chat or send us an email afterwards. We'll follow up with information. Like every month, what we will do is we take this video, we trim it, clean it up, and pop it out on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to know what's going on in the user group, you can always go directly to our website. I'm going to pop this in the chat. You can always go to our website and you can get information about upcoming events and past events. And there is a link to recorded events from previous months that we will record and put out there. So just like all of those, this one will also be posted out there if you guys want to go back and look at it later or share it out with your friends.